This is a whole technique. This is actually an eco conversation because when a house
Well, it's slippery.
This is what I would do. I've done this many a night.
I bet. See, experience is
You
very
You need
important.
a bigger blanket. You have a bigger blanket.
Yes, I do.
See?
And then you get in and then you wrap.
Yeah, get in.
Yeah.
And then you have a bigger blanket. Fold is totally the burrito thing. So, I'm honored to be here today with Michael Moore, who I've known for a long time, at least 10 years, I think, in Boulder. That's how long it's taken him to grow this beautiful beard. He's a beard model, which actually offsets a lot of his costs.
Yeah, it's very lucrative.
Yeah, but the time with oiling it, like, don't get into that line of work if you're not anything less than dedicated. Yeah, that's why, I just keep it relatively clean.
Yeah.
So, Michael is, I understand you were saying earlier, we sort of had a pre-interview discussion, that what you do with Tray Birds, which is generally like green design and construction, is somewhat rare, that the whole doing design and build is rare?
Yeah. So, Trace Birds, we're the architects and the general contractor. And usually, in 99% of the time, there's an architecture firm, there's a general contractor, and then there's a client. So it's this communication between the three, and there's a handoff of the design to the builder at some point. And it's pretty much of a handoff.
So a lot of things get changed.
They can, because budgets get established once there's this first handoff,
Right.
and people need to start making decisions about what goes away. The design, it's best if the designer's making those decisions, because if they're good, they have this initial concept and intent. And as value engineering happens, in the program, the way we're doing this is, as these decisions come up, we're making the decisions with the client and still achieving initial concept.
So the end result is much more eco, creative, unique.
Yeah, I think it just has higher value. We're a design-based firm, though. We're very good at building these things, but we're design-based. Everyone who works for me went to architecture school. What?
I just drank my tea wrong, and we don't edit, so cheers. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't remember what I was saying.
Well, you were basically just talking about how you're fundamentally a design firm. Yeah.
So everyone, the 13 employees I have all went to architecture school, whether they're the on-site job supervisor or in the shop working with wood and metal. So everyone's got this design background, and we're approaching it from this interdisciplinary manner. So like my background is in fine arts and environmental sciences. That was like growing up and going through college, and have continued to the fine arts, and then have woven, sort of taken fine arts and environmental sciences and the spirit of the times. Like I like reading about and witnessing sort of spirit of the times and being in the mix, and just sort of weaving all of those disciplines together to create architecture.
So let's get specific, like with a recent project, since we don't have these amazing photos are on your website of all your projects. If anyone watching this enjoys like looking at Dwell magazine or any kind of architecture design magazine, your website is like design porn or eco design porn. What are some fun things you do that maybe are unique that you enjoy doing? Like using plastic bottles, how do you keep good airflow or,
All of that?
Yeah.
Well, one that's easy to talk about is just reclaiming materials. And so, I learned early on studying sciences that, the best thing to do, in terms of energy usage and materials, it takes a lot of fossil fuels to make anything nowadays.
Yeah.
So instead of, immediately recycling it, it's like, well, what else could it be? Or what else could it do? And what do we have in our region that doesn't have a great afterlife? And see how because architecture takes so many materials to make, it's like, well, gosh, let's apply them to making buildings. And so
like plastic bottles don't have a good afterlife.
they don't have PET, plastic water bottles, all plastics, downgrade during the recycling process. So, and obviously it takes transportation energy, processing energy, storage energy to do anything with it. So it's like, if we can get it right from the source. So a recent project was in Denver at the taxi development. We did a biotech headquarter, and we made the exterior walls out of PET clear plastic water bottles. We got them right from the recycling line. The recycler in Denver, worked with us. We got them right off the line. We took 50,000 bottles off their line. It was a huge quantity. Sliced them up in the proper way, created this wall sandwich system that acted as a daylighting device because light could get through, was cheaper than glass, and had an R value similar to glass. So it was like a win-win-win. Wow. And it was beautiful, and it was, really, because we design and build these things, we come up with an idea and then we mock it up as quickly as we can to see, like, does this really work? And how does it look? And like, we create a prototype of it. And when we created that one, it was like, wow, this looks like cells. Like, when you look under a microscope, it's like, whoa. And we were developing the building for a microscope maker. So it was like, when all those things start to come together, so you can make one move and it satisfies all these different things. It's daylighting, it's their branding, it's a new use of a material, it's getting rid of landfill or downgraded material, and
it's insulation.
It's insulation. It's
privacy.
Yeah, so integrated thinking on all these moves, and just do less moves. Like, I mean, I really got I started the company in 2000, and really the bread and butter of the company has been taking really shitty buildings and making them great. So even the building being a reclaimed project, so something that has no daylight and is toxic and whatever, and then like, we come in, we poke holes, and then we change floor plates, and we create new energy systems, and we do renewable energy,
and then you transform it or transmute it almost into like this old space that's kind of toxic into this cool space that feels.
And some of them feel better than if we could even have made new, because they're brick and they have like old wood floors, and they're actually nicer feeling than doing new. We do both. We do ground up new, and some of our reclaim projects, I think, feel better than the brand new ones. Architecture is solving a problem. Nothing more, nothing less. It is more, but nothing less.
Something more.
Something
nothing
more.
Less.
Nothing less, something more.
Yeah.
For sure, something more.
Yeah.
And I believe, buildings with proper intention can have spirit and can change the way people think and work and feel and live and have families and all that. I think it really can play a significant role. I do.
Yeah.
I've experienced it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was born in 1970. Like, I lived in plenty of shitty, Midwestern suburban houses where it was depressing.
Yeah.
Or shitty schools, or, and you feel very different. Your attitude's very different. When you get, it's pretty simple. Sunlight's a big part of it. If you get sunlight and enough in your eyes each day, like, you feel a little happier.
And some fresh air.
Yeah. And then if you can be around some like real materials that at least aren't toxic, you feel pretty good. It's not, doesn't need to get too crazy too. Like, it's fun to play with shapes and get wild with architecture. It's super fun, and there's kind of a time and a place for it, but
it's a balance.
I'd rather do like bulk and good.
What do you mean? Bulk?
Well, I don't know. Let's not go down that road.
Well, but it's a balance. It's like you have I've seen some of your spaces, like Quick Left. It's very simple, but at the same time, it has super powerful aspects to it. Like, you planted this tech design firm or whatever, right? But you have this very organic, like, living wall made up. What's that made out of? Packed dirt?
It's dirt, yeah. It's packed dirt, and then it's burnished with a rock, and it turns very shiny, and it's
Right.
like really, really hard. It almost turns back into rock.
Right.
And we're able to shape that whole thing.
And then you planted all these plants in it.
Yeah,
Really
all
cool.
these different little zones, different little eco zones of plants, and it was really out of these. We've done several of these headquarters for tech companies now, and they're pretty easy because most of them they're in this nonverbal situation where they're answering and everything is on the keyboard and the screen. So you can have people sitting very close to each other. You can have people looking at each other because if you're in a business where you're doing a lot of talking, you can never face people. So in tech it becomes kind of easy. And one of the things that when we always interview our clients and their employees. We'll interview the employees and just get a sense of what's been going on and what some of their desires are. And over there at Quick Left, they were all like, yeah, just some sort of connection to like outside or plants or something. Like
Right.
we're staring into the screen all the time, like something real. Like,
Yeah.
and so we're like, okay, well, plants are really kind of easy. Like
Yeah.
they grow themselves, and that garden's like 5 times bigger than when we planted it 3 years ago.
It's
and
pretty awesome.
Yeah,
And it
it's
creates privacy. or
creates
starting to.
privacy and smell. Like when the afternoon sun comes through, it hits the rosemary. The whole space smells like rosemary. And like
Wow.
I had that in my last studio. I had the same thing. I had all this rosemary on the west side, and it was like this marker to the day. All of a sudden, I was like, cool. It's 4 o'clock. It's like,
Wow.
I smell
That's
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Viewers everywhere are going to start planting rosemary
Please
on their west side. Yeah.
do.
Yeah, so you kind of beat me to it again. I was going to say, well, not everybody here is here in Denver or Boulder, because you're very locally devoted, which we could touch on. But so how can they what can we learn from what you're doing? And you were saying just wherever you live, whether it's home for your family or wherever it is, spaces can uplift, like from the Buddhist tradition. And I'm a huge hypocrite on this right now. It's important to keep your space like a combination of simple and bright or uplifting or fun. And you have a lot of coming back to Quick Left, you have this neon green, yellow color everywhere.
Yes.
It's super tech and hip. But it's still a very simple space overall.
Yeah, I mean, to create simplicity takes a lot of intention.
Yeah.
So for me to like tell the viewer, like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I've had like I don't know 44 years of training of this now, to some extent with like growing up all with arts and it's like but trying not to do everything with everything, like
Yeah.
have things dedicated for certain things and really
Yeah. But you have to solve those problems. You do for a tech company or any company, you have to give them places to store stuff. Like
Yes.
a bookshelf is a classic, simple example. You're storing tons of stuff in an orderly way, but it's chaotic also, and it's fun. People love bookshelves. They love looking at books. So, I don't know. It's an interesting question, at least for me, is I have so much I feel like I buy old things and they're beautiful, but I also have probably too much chaos in my life, in my home life. And what you're able to do with what you create is a combination of chaos or fun and simplicity. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that simplicity is in with like the program and the design itself and the cadence of the structure and all these composition things. That's where we get the simplicity, and that takes a lot of thought and planning and reworking and integrating the systems into that. And then a lot of times the fun is like the materiality
Yeah.
and the vegetation component. Like the vegetation component is becoming a better and better tool for me as time goes on, because it's really, vegetation's our friend.
Yeah.
Like it wants to grow if you set it up in the reasonable right conditions. Like it wants to do its thing, and there's just so much to it.
So a lot of different companies are wanting that vegetation aspect.
They like it when we
Yeah.
when we integrate it in, and I think they really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's unusual for some reason. Obviously for me as an environmentalist, I love it. But to see a tech company have a whole wall of vegetation instead of a couple of potted plants that are dying, you know,
Right.
it's
Right. And they actually take, I mean, some of their employees are taking care of this garden partially. Like they're growing herbs next to the kitchen and all that. And it's like they want to do it during the day to step away from.
yeah.
Don't you like to do that when you're working at home? Like, let's go in the yard and check out what the strawberry plants are doing. You're like,
Yeah.
a couple, maybe weed for 10 minutes and then you're back in. And I mean, it's good living if you can kind of.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I believe that creativity is totally infinite. Just like the sun, it's totally infinite. And art is, the basis of art is creativity and this freedom, true freedom. And so that spirit entering an architecture project, if I have that spirit, or I do have that spirit as I enter an architecture project, it really allows me to enter the situation with no assumptions and like make the best of it. Right? So listen to what the desire is of people. This group of people need sunlight. This group need quiet. These three groups need to talk during the day for a business or something, and take that and to listen to what their desires, but then create a totally different solution set to get there. It's not out of an architectural catalog of wall systems and stuff like that at all. I still use that stuff because I have to for economy of scale, certain things, but really bring this whole other thing in and invent. I mean, and that's having the ability to invent. That was a big part of why I started Trace Birds as a true design build company, because I'm totally accountable for it. I can invent and then really follow through and be accountable.
Why is it called Trace Birds? Is there a story behind that?
There is a story behind that.
Do you have?
The
Would you
quick
like to share
version?
that? Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if there's a quick version.
Yeah, I don't have a quick version for elephant. They were
Okay.
always like, real quick. What's your
Okay,
deal?
real quick. When
No,
I
no,
was
it doesn't have to be real quick.
okay.
Yeah.
When I was a young kid, I was attacked by a raven 3 times.
Uh-huh.
And the first time it happened, it was very traumatic. And I had a bloody skull and cried to my mother. And, you know, I was a young kid. Second time it happened, I was with some of my friends. And, you know, being a young boy with friends, it had lots of tales from it and sort of legend. And then the third time it happened, I was alone. And it was kind of fun and enjoyable. And I just...
That's your journey.
That's the journey.
Yeah. That is an unusual, origin story.
And then the trace part is just the majority of the people who work with me to build these things speak Spanish.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We have some good new stuff that's
Cool.
we won a competition to design and build a kids park in Vail.
Yeah, Meg was talking about that.
And it had a good budget, so we could like invent and do something interesting. We just finished that. That's open as of a couple days ago.
Fun.
And we have a building that has some restaurants opening up next week.
Is that
We
the
have
taxi one or?
No,
something else?
it's Broadway Triangle. And
Yeah, I want to.
you're asking about the arts piece. I mean, this project we just did, it's at the end of that alley corridor of all the street art right now on Larimer, that whole alley so we did this triangular building here, and we commissioned 4 artists. So I'm never like the developer. I'm architect, general contractor. I don't have the money to be doing speculative development and stuff. That's not. So a developer, it's a developer project. And we came up with this concept really early. Hey, this big wall that faces this alley, but it's very public on our building. Let's get some local artists and let's do this art piece on there. And we developed the concept so that they're actually panels, so that the artist can work on their piece that's 12 foot by 8 foot in their own studios, and then it comes out, gets securely attached to the building, looks like it's the whole exterior wall, right, in these panels. And so we commissioned 4 artists, we paid them, I don't think enough, but It was enough for them, and they were psyched to do it. All the artists just did awesome. Artists tend to rise to the occasion, which is that's been my experience. And but what was different about this situation is after we're going to rotate it every 6 months, and in 6 months the artists own their piece again. And so they can sell it, and hopefully it'll have much higher value because so many hundreds of thousands of people have seen it over the last 6 months.
Yeah, and media.
And really put the money directly into the artist's pocket instead of through the gallery, through the developer. And it took the developer, just this modest upfront commission to get the 4 artists on board, and then so we'll see what happens. Hopefully,
that's so cool.
Hopefully the level of artists kind of blossom from it. Could be.
That's super creative and cool.
Yeah. And it makes the building better, and it didn't take too much of my time. I didn't make money creating that situation, but it was like, this is going to enhance the building. It's better for the neighborhood. A lot of these artists are my friends. It's going to be positive for them.
Like Scott or someone?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's next.
Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, and it fits, obviously, with the whole Larimer art corridor thing. It's place appropriate. Well,
it always made me sad when you see one of those art pieces get covered over.
Yeah.
Because it's gone forever.
Right.
So this allows them to.
That's cool.
Move on.
Yeah, we should do that in other places. It's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Keep working on the beard.
Yeah, it's pretty early season. I started a little earlier this year in like August.
It's really good looking. You're going to be a good Santa in like 50 years.
And I have some gray ones coming in.
Yeah.
I plucked them last year, but this year I'm gonna.
Did you really? You plucked them?
Yeah, there was just a few of them. They just kind of look weird. Looked like I always had like whipped cream in my beard or something.
I see.
People are always like,
yeah, you got something. Yeah, then they get swallowed. Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
It's an honor to reconnect, or a pleasure.
Cool.
And
it's
an
fun.
honor. Yeah. High five.